Welcome to West Wing Week.
Welcome to the West Wing Week, your guide to everything that's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and deep into the Far East. This week, the president issued a statement on net neutrality, convened both congressional leaders and his cabinet to discuss the agenda in the years ahead, and dove into an 8-day trip to China, Burma, and Australia to foster deeper relations with countries around the Pacific and open up markets and opportunity for American businesses here at home. That's November 7th to November 13th, or The Future That We See.
And that future is one where our success is defined less by armies and less by bureaucrats and more by entrepreneurs and innovators, by dreamers and doers, by business leaders who focus as much on the workers they empower as the prosperity that they create. That's the future that we seek. That's why we're here.
On Friday in the cabinet room, the president convened a meeting of, you guessed it, his cabinet, where he outlined for them one of the top priorities for the remainder of his second term.
People sometimes feel as if the federal government is distant, that it's not customer friendly, that there's too much bureaucracy. And because of the fine work of many of the members of this cabinet, what we've been able to do is start chipping away at some of the old ways of doing business and start instituting new ways of doing business that improve customer service, that make sure that people are getting the help they need.
Then the president convened the Big 16, the leadership from both parties and both chambers of Congress, where the president challenged them to put forward their best ideas to make the federal government work better for the American people. Saturday and Sunday, it was time to travel to the other side of the globe, where, in Beijing, the president kicked off this dizzying week-long trip through China, Burma, and Australia. This West Wing Week will only get us as far as China and Burma, so be sure to tune in next week to catch up with the rest of the trip. Here we go. The president's 3 days in Beijing began with a bilateral meeting with the newly elected president of Indonesia. Then it was on to the U.S. Embassy for a meeting with the leaders of the Trans-Pacific Partnership countries, a second bilateral meeting with the Australian Prime Minister, and a meeting with American veterans who serve our country at our embassy in Beijing.
To all of you, I just want you to know that our commitment is to make sure that we serve you as well as you serve us. And to show you how committed I am, this applies even to the guy who's wearing the Packers tie.
Sorry, sir, I had to.
Later, the president traveled to the Chinese National Convention Center to address the CEO Summit of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, better known as APEC. Here, the president announced a new visa arrangement between China and the United States.
I'm very pleased to announce that during my visit, the United States and China have agreed to implement a new arrangement for visas that will benefit everyone from students to tourists to businesses large and small.
That evening, or early that morning back in the States, the president took to the internet and released a video message on net neutrality.
The idea of net neutrality has unleashed the power of the internet and given innovators the chance to thrive. Abandoning these principles would threaten to end the internet as we know it. That's why I'm laying out a plan to keep the internet free and open. And that's why I'm urging the Federal Communications Commission to do everything they can to protect net neutrality for everyone.
On Tuesday morning, the president attended the APEC Leaders Summit, aimed at deepening the United States trade and investment partnerships, which bring enormous growth potential to U.S. businesses large and small, as well as enhancing our security as an enduring Asia-Pacific power. In the evening, the official state visit with President Xi of China began as the two leaders engaged in informal discussions regarding the importance of a U.S.-China bilateral relationship that solves global problems and lays out a roadmap which will advance the economic and security ties of both our countries.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Have a good sleep. The president's last day in China began at the Great Hall of the People, where the official state visit continued with a welcoming ceremony, additional meetings with President Xi and one with Premier Li, before the two presidents hosted a rare U.S.-style news conference in Beijing, including an announcement of a bold new partnership between the world's two largest economies to combat climate change in the 21st century.
We have a special responsibility to lead the global effort against climate change. And that's why today I am proud that we can announce a historic agreement. I commend President Xi, his team, and the Chinese government for the commitment they are making to slow, peak, and then reverse the course of China's carbon emissions.
Later, the president departed China for Burma. That evening, he participated in a working dinner with Southeast Asian leaders who'd gathered for a summit. If it's Thursday, it must be Napi talk. The president opened the day with a series of meetings at the East Asia Summit, before continuing on to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN Summit. At each stop, the president addressed maritime territorial disputes and encouraged regional leadership on challenges such as the counter-ISIL campaign and the Ebola epidemic. Want to know what happens next? So do we. And the best way is to stay engaged with us online, and remember, you can find out more information about any of these topics and see complete videos of these events at whitehouse.gov. And thanks again for checking out this Asia Pacific edition of your West Wing Week.
I was very impressed with the chants. So I heard them way down at the end of the hall. I started coming running. I didn't want, I thought there was going to be a riot right up front here.